Hello and welcome to episode 68 of the TRUUMAN Podcast, the podcast designed to create a generation of self-defined men. Today, I'm joined by Dan Summers. Dan, it's an absolute pleasure. How are you doing today?
I'm okay, thank you. Cold, but other than that, all fine and dandy.
Yeah, for video watchers or audio listeners, Dan is in a big coat and a hat as his heater is broken and it's freezing in the UK right now.
Yeah, I'm not waiting for a bus or anything like that.
Yeah, awesome. Dan, as always, where we start the podcast, in your own words, what makes you a man?
I was hoping so much you wouldn't ask that, but I'm well aware. It's your fact. I've been thinking about this for ages now, but I can only say through my perspective, as a dad and as a man. I think for me, it's just the person people look up to for accountability. Personally, like it's what's the other word I'm looking for? Yeah, so accountability. Yeah, I think that's pretty much that's it. If I'm honest with you, yeah, I'll play the whole. I'm sure people watching this will get annoyed when I say I'm the provider and whatever else, but that's actually the life I've chosen.
Yeah,
it really is. So there we go.
Short and sweet. I like it. It's simplistic, and I would like it to be simplistic for a lot of people. So it's nice that you can summarize it in such a short way. I think people try and overcomplicate things, and if you've got a nice, simple answer to it, then amazing. So yeah.
No, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do in the men's space?
Okay. Well, like you said earlier, yeah, I'm Dan Summers, and I guess the reason, my main thing is what I'm known as now is that this. I hate the term CEO. It just seems a bit. I started a charity which is called MANUP, and it's a charity which is actually quite new. It's been running for 4 years. No, 3 years as a charity, 4 years as like an idea.
Yeah.
It was supposed to have been a one-off event, and it was a bit gimmicky, if I'm honest with you. But because of COVID, it just blew up into this charity, and here we are we're wildly known pretty much all over the country, saving lives and all sorts, and that's something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, amazing. So MANUP is arguably a bit of a derogatory term. So why call it MANUP?
Yep. Good question. Absolutely. So basically, I called it MANUP originally because I wanted to relate to men. MANUP is not designed to educate people in the mental health space originally it was like that. This was giving men voices about what's going on in their lives. And the one thing what I've spent my life living with is people telling me to man up. I've heard so many people say, just drag your knuckles along the floor, get on with it, brother, and all of that kind of typical stuff. So when I was looking for ideas of what to call the one-off event back in 2019, the one-off event, I was just looking for names on it. And I was like, let's just call it Man Up. And then some people who are in the mental health space were like, no, you mustn't call it that. I was like, I'm onto something. So I started Googling it, like what does Man Up really mean? And in the Oxford Dictionary, arguably our Bible, isn't it, of the English language, Man Up is to be brave enough, means to be brave enough to deal with an unpleasant or an awkward situation. So I'm like, okay, I quite like that, because actually that's what all people in the mental health space are trying to do, is get people to talk, get men to talk, get other people to listen, blah, 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 blah. And it is brave to say, actually, my life's a bit, I nearly swore there, but my life's a bit crap at the moment. I don't think that necessarily is a gender thing. I think people do think it's a weakness. I think men are worse at it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll call it Man Up. I'm not going to tell men to man up in the traditional sense. I'm going to slap a question mark right on the end of it. And even the website is manup.how. We are simply questioning what the term man up is.
I like that. That's a much clearer way of saying it, right? It's got the question mark on there, but not many people see that. So I imagine you get that question a lot, but it's good to get a clarity for it.
Not as much as we used to. We used to get a lot of hate at the beginning, but now we've blown up and we're doing this, that, I'm sure we'll cover it. We're doing a lot as a charity. We're not just one of those, give us money, we'll save lives. We fund stuff. We do this, that, and the other as well. But anyway, so we're going to, now people know we're serious, but every now and again, I would say twice a month, we will get somebody message, stop telling people to man up. And like clockwork, and I should learn, just ignore it. I can't help but look at their personal profiles. I can't help it. But then I look at their stuff, and they're the typical people that they've just signed up, or they've just done a mental health first aider course,
Yeah.
They've done some sort of rule. I'm not undermining that kind of stuff. I'm really not. But the rule 101 of all mental health training, even entry level of mental health first aider, and it is. It's not a qualification as such. It's a course. And
Yeah.
yet again, I'm not undermining it. I think it's got a purpose. That doesn't mean that you're a psychologist. It doesn't mean that you're a therapist. And the number one rule is if somebody's acting weird, strange, angry, depressed, doesn't matter what it is, find out why, what's going on in their life. Does that kind of make sense? So with us, I'm like, our default thing is now is like we've got a pinned video to explain exactly why we use MANUP.
Yeah.
If you're in the mental health space, if you're not willing to go, actually, I'm going to watch this video, which is 2 minutes to understand, we now say, well, should you actually be in the mental health space?
For sure, right? It's a term that the men use. It's a term that has been with them for a while, and you're trying to attract men, right? It's not, if you're using, this is something that we can get into. Maybe it's probably why the event was so successful, but the terminology that's used in this space can be quite scary for men.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think a lot of talk around therapy, even mindfulness.
Yeah.
Mindfulness just completely and utterly freaked me out. I did a talk with a guy called Steve Ware. I think, has he been on it before, Steve Ware?
He's not, no.
Hit him up. He's on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy. But I did a talk with him. I think I was on a panel or something like that. And on his talk, he was like, okay, so what's everyone's opinion about mindfulness? And all of these people, you get the Teams chat. Well, oh, it's beautiful. It's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And I went, what a load of bollocks. And, when like impulsive, intrusive thought,
yeah,
it was literally like that. And to be honest, and then he come back at me, and I'll give him credit. He come back at me. He goes, "Well, Dan, he laughed. He goes, what is mindfulness to you?" I went, "Well, I'm not sitting there all like a prayer circles, candles, and all of that woo-woo stuff." He was like, "What do you do to chill out?" I went, "I race motorbikes." He goes, "Well, what do you think about when you're racing motorbikes?" I went, "Nothing. Getting to the end." It was like, okay. And then I said about how I'm a massive fan of a lot of wild camping. I go camping on mountains on my own in winter, minus whatever temp. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Is there a bit of masculinity in there of keeping myself alive? Absolutely, of course. I'm not going to deny it. But it's more because I can go there with all of my head problems. I've got no phone signal. There's not even birds up there because you're up so high. So there's no wildlife. It's just peace. Obviously, there's the wind and the snow or whatever else.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, that's mindfulness. And now I'm like, now I get it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are trying to force the conversation to include those words, whereas if you can achieve those states without having to, like you say, light some candles and think deeply, if you can just find mindfulness in any way, shape, or form, then you found it. I have a good friend who told me that he relaxes by listening to heavy metal whilst walking his dog. Like, I mean, that is just whatever works is better than nothing, right? I think is probably the short.
No, exactly that. And I think, I guess, is what we try and promote through MANUP is as long as a man or the man you're helping is we're all trying to get to all trying to get to fix the problem of men talking and not dying at the end of the day. And actually, sometimes you don't need to. The best way to talk about mental health, especially with men, is not talk about mental health.
Yeah.
It's like it's Lewis, isn't it? I've nearly forgot your name there. So it's normally like, Lewis, I don't know, pretend we've known each other for ages. I know that every Monday you come to work, your car is spick and span. It's like that's your weekend baby of like cleaning whatever. And then I don't know, a couple of weeks you notice like the car just looks a bit crap. That's not the normal type of way. So rather than go, Lewis, I'm really worried that you might be depressed, because you're automatically going to freak out as a bloke. Just go, effing right there, mate, because I've noticed this.
Yeah. It's
the way getting to the solution is just completely and utterly different.
Yeah.
It's like I'm so anti. Well, I'm not anti the talk of getting blokes to cry. Or you must have seen the tick list every November, like clockwork, when it's International Men's Day and all this kind of stuff. Men can cry. Men should be emotional. Men. It's like we're the only type of people where we're told how we should talk, how we should react, and how we should respond. And if we don't fit that mold, then it's our fault.
Yeah. Yeah, I always do find that quite strange. Is like this is what men should be doing, and not a case of this is how you can find out how to be
Yeah,
more mindful, less anxious, etc., etc. It is a very strange dynamic. If you don't mind, can we just sort of rewind a little bit and
yeah,
get?
no, of course. So I went off on one. So
No,
yeah.
no, that's totally fine. I just want to get a understanding of what kickstarted the idea behind the event in the first place.
Well, it was after Keith Flint died. From the Prodigy, I got
Yeah,
a text message. I knew Keith. Were we best mates or whatever else? No, we weren't. We knew each other in various circles, known each other for a number of years, and that one kind of hit me hard. But in my office, well, it was literally 4th of March 2019. I remember looking at the phone, get the text message. I remember being surprised because even 4 years ago, I was surprised I had a signal in the area. Got Keith's dead, and I was like, bloody hell, not another one. And my wife was in the office. I think our web developers in the office as well was just like, what do you mean not another one? I was like, I just know someone else has just decided to call it a day, kill himself. And they were just like, Dan, the way you're talking about it is really weird. Like, do you know how much of a problem it is? And I was like, well, I know loads of blokes who have killed themselves. And I started counting. Back then was 20
yeah,
who I knew personally. Were they best friends, whatever else, no, but I knew them for
yeah,
things. And they were like, Dan, that's not normal. But because I was raised in the care system, I was raised in the care system. I was heavily involved in the DJ world, the rave world, and motorbike racing, blah, 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 which you could say is arguably a dangerous sport.
yeah,
My wife does. I completely and utterly disagree if you ignore the crashes. But I just put it down to that. And then I started looking at the stats of like male suicide and men's mental health. I didn't realise it was a problem. So I started looking at the stats. And then there's one day I looked at a government PR and it said, whoopie doo look at us, we've managed to drop male suicide rates by like, it was something really stupid, like 5 out of thousands. And I was like, okay, well, what about the men who have got themselves, who have got addicted to drugs? What about the ones who are gambling themselves to death? What about the ones who are really, really struggling? Why are we only focused on the instant solution, which is suicide? I was like, surely something should be done to change that mindset before they want to decide to kill themselves. And I'm absolutely adamant, and this is backed up by Dr. Susie Bennett, the research that we fund, is normally once a bloke's got suicide in his head and he's planned it out, it will happen.
yeah. We have seen a little bit of research that I've touched on a few times, which is around the number of men that have committed suicide, but that also have reached out for help in some way, shape, or form through traditional
Nine,
avenues.
91% of suicides.
Yes,
Yeah, no, that was Manchester. That was nothing to do with us. That one, I think it was Manchester University. They looked at 2,000. It was either 2,000 or 2,000 or 2,500 male suicides in 1 year. 91% of them were in touch with frontline services.
yeah, and I think the scary thing about that was the other statistic, which I think was of those 91, 78% of them were deemed no risk or low risk to
Yep,
suicide.
yep.
So based on your knowledge, why is that? What is the reason that men are able to hide it from these professionals?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily high. I don't think it's necessarily hiding it. I do think that men are brushed off a lot and ignored.
Yeah,
If I'm honest with you, let's do a sweeping thing. I think we're in a world like we were talking about the mindset and the mindfulness. If you Google anything about how to get well at mindfulness or whatever,
yeah,
it's extremely female terminology. If you Google anything to do with domestic violence, again, it's all worded towards females. So why would men engage with that kind of stuff? Even Suffolk Police, they shared something about if you're a victim of domestic violence, contact this charity. A brilliant charity. They deal with both genders. But in the post, if you're a victim of domestic violence, blah 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 blah, and then it just flipped. I can't remember. I don't want to quote exactly because I'm going to get it wrong. And they deleted it after I complained. It was just like, and then it was just at the bottom of it is like basically saying like 60% of males are domestic abusers.
yeah.
So why did you need to put that statistic in there when the charity itself deals with both genders?
It's interesting because why is that the frame when it's about helping someone, right? Why is it that there needs to be the who's committing the crime? It's a case of this is the support that you need. So why is the
Yeah,
framing?
exactly that. So I just think we We just need to try and balance that kind of stuff out.
Yeah.
So there is that. So I think if you Google anything to do with men's mental health, the male depression, I think is personally quite feminine terminology. I really do. But I think we're also presuming what men should be doing rather than asking them what they want. I've done videos with men. Our format is very similar to this. Obviously you have your format, which, to be honest, is so we can make it easy for edit and rehash the content. But anyway, we'll always ask, like, what have you done to get yourself out of a pickle? A life wobbled. It doesn't matter what it is. Let me just chuck this in and I'll go back to it, so I apologise. Considering we're a men's mental health charity, when I'm doing like a video like this, like a one-on-one conversation, we never actually talk about the mental health condition.
Yeah.
We talk about how they've either learned to live with it or avoid it in the first place. Like with me, I'm high functioning borderline personality disorder. I've had a lot of therapy and all sorts, so it doesn't bother me that much. But I'm also a high functioning depression. That's the one what just won't fuck off sometimes, if I'm honest with you. Sorry, excuse my terminology. So I've had to learn steps to go, right, actually the motorbike racing really works for me. The wild camping works for me better than all therapy and anything else. I had to spend ages working out what works for me just so I can get rid of the brain farts.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to be doing, is actually asking men what do they want. I've had men, and I'll go back to what I was saying. I've had a man who's a sniper. No, I've had a man who's a sniper. He's one of the not a lucky one. He's one of the lucky ones that after the wars, he went downhill really, really bad. But where he was lucky is he was offered all of the therapy from everything. It was given to him on the plate. He's very, very blessed. None of it worked. Still tried to kill himself. Still went completely, like his words, completely and utterly mental. He started a knitting group in his local library with a group of old ladies. I think they meet once a month. And I remember in the video going, I thought he was taking a pee. I was like, you what? He goes, no, I don't. He goes, once a month. Me and a load of old dears at a local community, they sit around in a circle, knitting, teaching each other, putting the world to rights. They've all lost people because obviously they're their age group. They make cakes for each other, and they all bugger off home.
And it works for him.
Absolutely works. There's another guy, Danny, he runs a microbrewery. I've rinsed this so much now, so I apologise. But he's, again, after COVID nearly killed his business, he went downhill. I think he was blessed. He's tried all the traditional stuff. None of it works for him. I'll emphasise for him. I'm not saying therapy's bad. I have it myself.
Yeah.
Just we've got to find something what finds for us. He started a ferret walking group up Yorkshire.
It's a niche one.
It's brilliant. As you can probably tell, I literally rinse that at any moment I can because I'm like, okay, well, he's tried everything. It's just nothing's really fit the mold for him. But for him, that sense of purpose of organising that, the same as the sniper, the same as all the other people I've done.
Yeah.
It gives that man some sort of purpose. And I think we need to be promoting that. And this is exactly why the NHS now, like doctors, they're looking for like social prescribing.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this local knitting group, walking group? It doesn't really matter what it is. We're actually on social prescribe lists ourselves. I think we need to be promoting that actually, rather than telling men how to talk, how to respond, blah, 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 blah. Actually say, what can we do to help you?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it. Do you think that men want that sort of conversation because we're perceived as solution-based?
Yeah, I think so. I've said this many times. I think the main difference between men and women, in my opinion, is women. We all know women are more than happy to talk about the problems and ask for help and share. That they are bloody good at it.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend they're not. I think men, we want to fix our own problems first. We at least want to give it a go.
Yeah, and what's your thoughts on this? So you spoke about the sniper going through traditional routes, going through everything that was available to him, and eventually landed on knitting with old dears. I personally went through my own suicidal ideations and had these sort of issues. Part of that for me was just trying to get out of each stage of a rut. So I basically looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I look like a bar of soap, or skinny fat as it's maybe more known. So I was like, this needs to change. So I started walking regularly. But at the same time, my partner at the time was still saying, you need to go to therapy, you need to do this. But I knew that wasn't the case. For me, it was just a case of trying new things and different things to see what was working, to almost recreate a new regime and a new me rather than just going to therapy. I now look at it now as a case of I wasn't ready for therapy. So to put that into perspective, I'm considering therapy at the moment to work on
Yeah.
other things, but it's taken me 3+ years to get to here to even consider it. So is there a bit in the journey?
Well, I believe there is. I went through my life absolutely hating therapists. I've tried it, and I think it's more because I've been told to have it,
Yeah.
and I had it, or spoke to people because I was told to do it by partners or people around me. But nobody actually asked me what. Nobody actually. I did it more to shut other people up, just to get them off my back. But yeah, again, I don't want to sound anti-therapy. I have therapy every week.
Yeah.
I'm not anti, but that, like you, it took me quite a number of times to not only get off my ass and actually do it, but also find the therapist which matches my personality as well. Yeah, I think sometimes we just got to let men find their own journey and just up to a point hold their hand a little bit while they're doing it. Do you know what? It's perfectly fine to let a bloke completely and utterly cock it up. Just let him do it. Just be there. Just be there for him.
So there's a lot of conversation around men needing to talk more.
Don't
And
get me
you,
started. Yeah.
well, you touched on it briefly when you sort of said about noticing a guy who may have his pride and joy's his car, and Monday it's a bit dirty. The next Monday you see the McDonald's wrapper in there, and you start a conversation. What do you think's missing from men to have these conversations that allow them to fail, which is what something else you touched on, and basically be there for each other?
How do you? I'm not sure I understand the question. That's probably my bad.
No, it is a tricky one to explain. And what I'm trying to get at is that I agree. I think the narrative of men needing to talk is a little bit tiresome. I think a lot of men do talk, as statistics show. I just think there's an element of maybe not saying the right thing, or the person that is being spoken to is not able to ask the right questions, or is not able to create that environment where failing feels comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. I think that makes a bit more. I think that makes a bit more sense. I think that's more on me than you. I think we need. It's very very rare that anybody speaks to more than one person at one time. Very very rare. I'm not. I'm going to ignore the groups and all this kind of. There's some really really good ones. I'm on about. Let me give you some examples. Like I said earlier, I'm on BPD, high function BPD, but I think I've kind of grown out of it, and therapy and all. It doesn't bother me that much. The depression does a little bit. And so my wife now knows like the signals. If I'm not sleeping, I'm sort of basically her words turning into an arsehole. So she'll say to me, "It's like rather than like I can see you struggling," because I just don't react to that terminology.
Yeah.
She'll literally be like, "Then maybe you should go camping for a couple of days." Like my chair trustee Steve, we've known each other for many years. Again, I've rinsed this one as well because we've known each other for so long. He'll be like, Dan, you're being a prick. I'm not suggesting that everybody goes out calling everyone who's struggling a prick. It's use the terminology what you're used to. I think when we're talking about mental health, I think it's not I don't think it's necessarily a gender thing, but when we see somebody struggling or we know somebody's struggling with their mental health, it's like we all put on a white coat and turn into doctor mode.
Yeah. Be kind. Is that maybe something that's to do with that?
No, we're due that, aren't we? So that is what is that February when sadly Caroline I think it's February, isn't it? When Carolyn Flack took her life.
Yes, it's close.
Yeah. So like clockwork, one of those things everyone will be, or most people will be sharing. Be kind. It's like, well, what about the other 364 days? Is that the same as like mental health awareness days and all this kind of stuff? It's like everyone just be more aware all the way through the year. And I think men react to things like Movember. I think men tend to shut away a little bit unless they're growing a moustache, just because up to a point want to fit the part.
Yeah.
I think the true meaning of these dedicated days, whatever else, I think they're just lost, completely and utterly lost. The amount of conversations I've had with men, they're like, "Oh, my office is forcing everybody to grow a moustache for this Movember." But they sacked somebody 2 or 3 weeks ago for being off too much because of their mental health.
Yeah, you got to practice what you preach, I guess, right?
No, exactly that. I just think the whole conversation about men's mental health is just got so white coaty. Like I said earlier, sometimes the best way to talk about mental health is not to use the terms mental health. If that means like Lewis, you're being a dick, mate, is everything all right? Then say Lewis, you've been like, your car looks a steak, mate. You're not normally like, what's going on there, mate? It doesn't really matter. You don't need to use the terms mental health. I think that just freaks out a lot of blokes. And I think we're moving into really dangerous ground as well, that if you mention the term mental health, people automatically say, I haven't got mental health.
Yeah.
Or actually, every single person has mental health. Exactly the same as we've all got a heartbeat. But now we've tarned that word mental health. We need to be promoting, get rid of the small problems before they escalate into big problems.
Yeah, I like that. It's really nice. I know someone who was asked or suggested that they went to a men's mental health group, and his response was, "Why would I go there? It'll be full of mental people." So,
I think I might have said that myself over the years. So yeah, absolutely. But this goes to one of these things. Is just you wouldn't ever go to a men's. I wouldn't. I personally wouldn't go to. As me as a man, ignore the CEO stuff.
yeah,
Me as a man would never go to a men's mental health group. It just the thought of tissues and moaning and no, not a chance. But I would go to a hiking group. I would do something else. So we've got to get rid of that tick list. And that it's just like what one of my friends, he's well, our ambassador Ben. I really, he's into the. He hates me saying it. He's into the arty farty drawing stuff. Absolutely love it, and he's doing really really good stuff. And I do joke about us all arty farty and all this kind of stuff. But there was a guy I was dealing with a little while ago, probably a good few months ago now. He was really struggling with stuff. Obviously, I've done the default. Have you thought about this? You thought about that? No. Straight away, office. I'm like, there's a guy here who does all that arty-farty stuff up the road there. Why don't you go in his group? He's not judgy. I think he still goes there to this day.
yeah. It's just finding what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think sport's a big one. I think sport's pretty standard for a lot of people. I think that's something that's quite quickly lost when you get family. It's you put all that on the back burner. You might not have played football in God knows how many years, or you might have got injured and you can't play it. So you just got to find.
I hear that a lot. Actually, when they get injured or they feel they get too old or fat or whatever else,
Yeah,
I hear that a lot, especially with sports. So it's like, well, do something where you find that you've got a purpose. Do something you enjoy. There is no woman on the planet would argue that they're allowed to have a me day. Not a chance. And I really don't think there's many women what would allow their fellas to do that. I think we're moved in a weird place where all women are naggers. And I don't think they are. There are. My wife can be a nagger. She really can. But actually, we need to separate that line of, is she nagging, or is it she's trying to get through to me because she cares?
yeah. It's interesting.
We can't brand it all as nagging. But I think I've lost my mojo with that, so I apologise. Well,
No, it's fine. I think it's just finding your feet, finding it, and sometimes it's about just being selfish. I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to echo is that the men
yeah.
need to be a little bit more selfish.
Oh yeah, no, and I think that's what I say. I don't think there's many women. Obviously I'm only picking on straight relationships. So I'm not nor engaged or whatever else. But it's just in that concept, that perspective. I think there's not many women on the planet in a relationship who would love to get rid of their husband or partner for half a day.
Yeah,
I really don't. But I think sometimes men have kind of tricked ourselves. Maybe social media has not helped with that. That men can't enjoy their lives a little bit.
yeah, which is bizarre considering we're fighting for equality. I say this statement: it's the best time on planet Earth to be a man, even anti. Let's not use the word patriarchy and all that. You have the choice to be whatever you want. If you want to be the CEO, if you want to be a stay-at-home dad, if you want to knit with some old deers, if you want to walk a ferret around a lake, you can literally do whatever you want if you play the game that is what we're currently dealing with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think I think it's both. I think we should just be encouraging people. Just get. I don't think it shouldn't even be called be selfish for a day. It's just looking after yourself. If you want to switch off for a day and sit on your ass and just watch Netflix, then do that. I think it's worse for men where we're just expected to keep going, and not encouraging blokes just to be a bloke. Like I said earlier, me and the wild camping, my wife jokes away, it's like, it's just you wanted to be a double R bastard and all this kind of stuff. Up to a point it is. It is, absolutely. It's about testing myself, knowing that I can survive at minus 17 and all this kind of stuff with 80-mile-an-hour winds. Of course, there is a bit of masculinity in there as well. I guess up to a point, it's the same as the motorbike racing. There's absolutely a bit of masculinity. But the reason being is because I'm a man.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's forgotten, or we try
Yeah.
and not include that in conversations. But I think that could be a very big wormhole. And I really want to get onto some of the amazing work that MANUP is doing,
Yeah.
sort of on the research side of things, which I think is extremely interesting. So, what was the decision behind going down that route?
I think it falls back to the Men Should Talk stuff, which is shared every single November. And I started saying literally from day one, I'm like, maybe men are talking, but people aren't listening. And then I found out about Dr. Susie Bennett, and she was looking for funding. And I remember when it first come about, I was absolutely disgusted because I don't know if you've read it. Her research before she come to us is literally changing how people talk about male suicide. And she was looking for more funding just to expand it. And I was like, why aren't the government funding this stuff? Why aren't the big? I'm not going to say names. Why aren't the big men's mental health charity? Why aren't they? Why are we having to step in? And I found it absolutely. But we did anyway.
Yeah.
Because there was two things. One, because we absolutely support Dr. Susie Bennett and what she does. I think her research is absolutely incredible. But it also, up to a point, it also gives us clout as a charity as well, because we can actually say, do you know what? Rather than we can say actually. We've stepped up as a charity when other people haven't. No other men's mental health charity in the UK is doing this kind of stuff. So it kind of gives us clout, and it also gives us the ammo for when I start using the statistic like the 91% or how many men went to a doctor, and it doesn't really matter what it is. Rather than them go, well, prove it. I can go, well, here's the research. It's up to you if you like that 91% of suicides. I've said that in talks before, and they're like, that can't be right. Well, Google it, and they're not willing to Google it.
Yeah.
That proves the point. Like you've asked me to come in to do a talk. I'm telling you what the issues are based on data. Nothing's to do with my opinion, and you are choosing to ignore it.
Yeah, I think it definitely gives a bit more of a weight. What are you seeing that's maybe putting a bit of pressure on government to have these conversations? I know there's a lot of push around women's issues and that side of things. Do you think that that's a goal for this, or is it just a case of the more I can shed light on it, the more people will know about it?
Well, for us, it's helping Dr. Susie Bennett get it out to as many people as possible. Last year alone, we've done 4 or 5 events all over the country, and every single one of them were rammed. And funny enough, other than local governments, which up to a point is different, we've never had anybody directly from the government interested in coming to look at the research. They've never engaged, so I don't believe the government. It does feel like the government don't really care that much about men's mental health. I think they're too focused on other stuff and votes.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with that, that's just how it feels, and this is things what we're trying to fight against. So I was in a video with Downing Street 2 years ago to talk about a reform of the child maintenance, the CMA, CSA, whatever you want to call it. We were the only men's mental health charity in that space. All of them were domestic violence. I get it. All of them were domestic violence and feminists and whatever else. And they're all saying, basically, the whole thing was dads are scumbags. And I was like, okay, well, maybe we need to look at it as different, of just like, if the mum with the kid has decided to move 500 miles across the country and the dad has to go and pick them up, there's got to be some sort of allowance in that monthly pay, what gives account that he's going to be spending every single weekend 150 quid's worth of fuel.
Yeah.
Why not look at her? Not look at her income. And the big thing, what I really pushed is, in most cases, when a man moves out because a relationship has fallen apart, normally if there's a mortgage, he'll be on the mortgage. But when he gets kicked out and then the CSA get involved for whatever silly reasons, if his name is on the mortgage and he's paying his half or all of it or whatever else, that should be accounted for in the maintenance.
Yeah.
But did you know that's not allocated? That's seen as a personal debt.
I didn't know that. No, that's
So the man is still paying for the mortgage or half the mortgage, while normally the wife, partner, and the kids are still living there. And well done to him.
Yeah.
But that's not accountable out of the child maintenance. So he's got to pay that.
Yeah.
He's got to pay the maintenance, which I do not object to whatsoever, as well as trying to rebuild his life, paying rents and whatever else going on. And I'm like, how the bloody hell is that fair?
No, yeah, it's interesting because I'm pretty sure that the home is included in other things as well, like the sale of it might be put on hold if that's going to put pressure on where the mum and the children can move, right? So if it's accounted for in one column, why is it not accounted for in another one? That was
Exactly that. And I was just raising the question, but even with that, literally everyone in that teams, it was teams because of the government, they were going nuts. They were just, what about abuse victims or whatever else? So I was like, yeah, again, I'm literally sitting here with the government and all these charities, and you're basically saying that all men are abusers. This is the problem.
So I would like to get your thoughts on this. So for me, I'm really interested. You touched on it very briefly. The other things other than suicide that men sort of get into. For me, drinking, drug abuse, violence against women, violence against other men, or sexual or just aggressive, are all from the same cloth. So why do you think that they aren't being looked at in the like looking at the source, as in why are men doing this rather than men are doing this?
That's a good question. It's the question that I've been asking. Absolutely. I think that I used to run soup kitchens and I used to do a lot of outreach with like the homeless and whatever else. And very few people ask, why did they get in that situation? Why did they start taking drugs? Why did they start drinking and whatever else? The abuse stuff, I personally think if any man raises a hand to his woman, even in anger, I think that they're in a different thing. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I just don't think there's. But vice versa, I don't think a woman should even raise a hand to a man at all. I think if anything needs to be equal, that kind of needs to be. I think we need to get to the bottom of. I'm not scared to ask why is that person in that situation. I have fed. I remember, and it still haunts me. There was a guy who started doing soup kitchen a few years ago. It's a bit sheepish, always prim and proper, but obviously he's been living on the streets.
Yeah.
And after I started to build a bit of a relationship with him, and I went to him, I was like, you seem all right. They're all right, but some of them I wanted to bring their necks, but most of them were actually. I remember I was like, what? If you don't mind me, I was like, how have you got to this? And he was like, you're the first person to ask me. He was a doctor at A&E. His wife got cancer, and then I think his daughter died. His wife got cancer, so he was having to quit his job. He had to pay the mortgage, and obviously being a doctor, I presume that mortgage was. I'm being judgy on this, but presuming he had more than an average mortgage. I think his daughter died shortly after, or something happened there, so his life went completely to shit. But nobody's actually asked him, like, how did he get into that? And it was basically because he couldn't keep up with his mortgage payments.
Yeah, sure. It's usually a simple solution or a simple reason in that sense, and it's
no, exactly. But if you just walk past him, I think he's all right now. I think he's doing all right now. But it's just if you just walked past him when he was in that state, because it is a state. That's what percent it is. He's just another homeless person who's drinking himself to death, and it's all his own fault.
Yeah.
Right? Is it really his own fault?
No, it's definitely a conversation for sure that needs to be had along all lines in my view. But alcohol and drugs and homelessness is the outcome of that for sure.
Yeah. But I do think when it comes to drug, I'm quite strong on it. Do I think people should take a drug? Absolutely not. Of course not. Been there, done all that, especially for the rave scene. Absolutely not. I do not think it's a solution. But I'm not actually anti-drug. I actually can see why people, especially with abuse, men and women have been abused throughout their life.
Yeah.
Can you not understand why they might turn to drugs?
Yeah.
Just ask the question, why, and then you can work through it that way.
Yeah, well, I think that's sort of encompasses in what you're looking at, right? Which is that what can you do to start? What can you do to make yourself feel better? How do you preempt most of this rather than waiting for it to happen and having those other conversations which you could have prevented by just doing something and having a conversation with someone a lot earlier in regards to what's going on.
It's literally as simple as, maybe I'm being arrogant, but I've had this conversation so many times and whatever else, and I think both are worse, is if we can get rid of day one's problems, I don't know, the car blew out or whatever, it doesn't really matter what it is, get rid of day one's problems on day one. because the worst thing you're going to do, and I'll see this time and time again, and I've fallen foul for myself, nearly had divorce and all sorts, is day one's problems escalate into day 2, day 3, day 4, all of this kind of stuff happens. And then in my case, the wife is like, Dan, I know something's wrong, what's going on? Society's telling me that she's a nagger. Other blokes up to a point are saying, oh, she's just bloody nagging you. No,
Yeah.
actually, up to a point, she's not. It's because she cares. But the difference between men and women is, I think, like I said earlier, is we shut away trying to fix our own problems, trying to find a solution, even though sometimes there isn't one there. A woman, especially in a relationship, after day 4, 5, 6, or a couple of weeks of going, I know something's wrong with you, talk to me, will start losing confidence in the relationship. And the woman then will start going to her friends, something's going on. Like, am I being a bitch? Am I being horrible? And of course, they're always going to go, no, it's you, it's him. I can see why. Or even worse, she'll speak to her mum. And if mum gets involved in your relationship, it is game over. So we now actually say, get rid of the small problems before they escalate into them big problems.
Like that. Nice and simple.
No, exactly. And it doesn't need to be just about mental health. It's just sometimes life is just shit. So I keep throwing myself on. Sometimes life is just not everything's about mental health illnesses and problems. Just sometimes life's crap.
Yeah. Well, I think good mental health is the byproduct of doing the right thing, and just bad mental health comes from what you're saying, which is not dealing with stuff as it happens. It's pretty. There's obviously spectrums to this, and there's ways that people fall into differing disorders, and there's ways that some things are inherent. But for the majority of people, it's just a case of not dealing with stuff.
Yeah. It's literally as simple as look after your mental health before it turns into a mental health illness or a mental health problem. Yeah, like you're saying, there are some more severe ones, obviously schizophrenia and bipolar, whatever. They do need treatment, and I absolutely applaud all of that and welcome all of that. But actually, the statistics show we're just talking to the everyday people, not the ones. But again, there's a guy called Antonio, schizophrenia. He was like advising BBC, EastEnders, and whatever else. He's worked out ways how to live with it rather than choosing to suffer from it. The minute I'm only on about like the severe stuff and the people who might be like properly depressed or whatever else. Sometimes you need to learn to find ways to learn to live with it rather than suffering from it. And once you can get to that, the road is open.
Love that. What's next for MANUP?
Well, funny enough, yesterday, whenever this uploads, so on Tuesday the 25th, we've decided we're going to work with Susie Bennett for another year. Just to expand on more research or whatever else. So I'm really looking forward to that. We do like therapy groups every 2 weeks with James Elliott. Any bloke can join up, completely and utterly on Zoom. Join up, learn about themselves and find solutions for themselves. In April, we're doing our very first, hopefully annual camping trip. I'm taking 30 blokes away.
Nice.
We're paying for it all. We're not asking for anything from any bloke. The only thing they've got to do is get there and bring a tent. But we're covering all of that kind of stuff and just continue that thing of course, asking men to talk and trying to encourage men to talk, but not being scared to say, actually, if a man's willing to talk to you, are you willing to listen?
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to listen, or you're not, maybe we need to change.
I would really like you to explain that in a little bit more detail. If you're not willing to listen, maybe you need to change, or are you willing to listen? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think good question. I think the main thing is, I don't know, say for example, let's pick on the doctor. I think doctors actually do a very, very good, I think they do the best they can at the moment.
Yeah.
I've done an interview with a doctor, and it's always trauma. It's always stayed in my mind. I asked him point blank, why do you just give antidepressants out willy-nilly? Everybody thinks that. And he said quite, I remember he looked eye to eye down the camera. It's quite intimidating, actually. He was like, that's the only resources I've got. I can't offer you therapy or anything like that at all. So what I'm saying is that there are really good doctors out there.
Yeah.
The amount of times that I've heard of men, they've gone to a charity, therapist, a doctor, and they're tapping on the keyboard, literally tapping on the keyboard. It's like the man might as well not be there. I've heard a story, actually loads of stories, where a man has actually said, life's really crap for me at the moment. And their partners or people in life is like, well, I can't deal with this. I've got a lot going on. It's like, well, why tell the man to talk to you then? And I see that time and time again. There's another one. There's a name up there. Every now and again we get checks from funeral homes. And sadly, these are blokes who have died. You can probably we can guess the reason why in literally 99.9% of the time. There was one of them I decided to phone up. It's just worded like, I'm going to ring this person up rather than send a thank you template letter. It didn't feel right. And I was speaking to his sister, and she goes to me, yeah, it's my brother who decided to take his own life. And it upset me quite a lot because he was a builder, he went to his HR to say, I'm actually really struggling with life at the moment. They sent him over to another section, like the mental health first aider. And he said, what did she say? She goes, his exact word, because it's in the report, I feel like fucking committing fucking suicide. Guess what the person said to him?
Please tell me.
You shouldn't use the word committed in this day and age. He then basically told her to clear off, or told them to clear off.
Yeah.
6 hours later, his body was found. Am I blaming that person? No. That's too much to put on. But I think even you said committed earlier. It's about the context of the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, don't correct people. If people want to be, just let them be an arsehole. Let them say what they want for like 20 minutes. Just let them offload a little bit.
Yeah. I'm very anti that. I think it is committed. I think that you can tell.
I agree. I agree with you. We've had this discussion, but we've had not many. We've had other complaints. Why I've never corrected anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have the right when somebody talks about their son or daughter, son or husband to say, "Oh, sorry, mate. I know your husband killed himself, but really you shouldn't say committed." I'm not correcting. I've got no. It's about the context of why. It's about the context of how I said. I'm never ever going to correct anybody on that.
No, I don't think I would correct anyone, whatever terminology they use. I stand by what I say in the sense that I think it's final and it was a decision that was made. And
I agree with you. Yeah.
I think by saying something else, it tears away from what it is, and it devalues the issue. In my
absolutely. So, but I think in a nutshell, I think we just need to like I said, just remove that white coat and just speak to them like you would normally speak to them. You don't need the white coat.
Yeah, awesome. Dan, what are you seeing in the space right now that you really like, and what do you want to see more of?
Well, I think more people are stepping up. I really do. Men's groups. I've always said this. I think anybody can start, male or female, could start a men's only group, and it will do really, really well. Society, local press, and whatever else, social media go, oh, well done to you, and seriously, well done to them for doing it. But it's just like, well, is no one really why is no one asking the question of like why are only men speaking to other men?
Interesting.
Why we're not questioning that? Why are men not? I'll just keep picking on the mindfulness because obviously that's what I said. Why are they not joining the knitting groups? Why are they not joining the anxiety group? Why are they not joining? No, it's like no one's prepared to ask that question. But I do think more and more people are using our term. I'm not saying like we're the founder of our terminology, but I think we are giving more confidence to blokes, even women. The amount of women what thank us because of the video we've done. I think we are giving voices to men, actually allowing men to work out their own or tell us about how they've got through their own problems.
Awesome. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. I could talk to you for literally hours and it would be amazing. But I will leave the final thoughts with yourself. Let people know where they can find you if they want to hear more.
Am I doing the pluggy thing now? Oh, I hate this bit. So if anyone wants to find us, the website is manup.how. Yes, that is HOW. And any social media, just put manup one word with a question mark. You'll find us. And the one thing I will say, if it's a go plug it, we're always looking for men who've got a good story and they'll be willing to do a Zoom because that video might save a life or change your mind.